Today is Friday, November 14th. I am Cindy Allen, CEO of TradeForce Multiplier, a global trade consultancy service. Welcome to Simply Trade Cindy's version, where I base an international trade update on a Taylor Swift song. This podcast is brought to you in association with Global Training Center. Today's song is Death by a Thousand Cuts. We'll get into that in a moment. But first, what happened in this week in the world of trade? Well, the shutdown is over. We got to vote. The shutdown is over. And for those of you who felt this most viscerally, probably was in travel. I myself got stuck in Charlotte earlier this week trying to get home from Detroit, and ended up spending an extra night in Charlotte, North Carolina. Very nice area, but I was ready to get home. I am applauding the fact that we hopefully will see no more reductions in flights going forward, and that my air traffic controller friends are back at work in full force. Funny story, I have some friends who are actually air traffic controllers here in Memphis. Lived in a neighborhood with them, and my dad used to be an air traffic controller, so I have a soft space in my heart for the air traffic controller. So I'm glad we're back, and everything is running seemingly okay. There were reports that up to 6% of the flights were cut, and they're hoping to add those back in over the next week or so. So 2 weeks until Black Friday, little less than 6 weeks till Christmas. Are we truly going to have a peak season? That's the question. We didn't really see much of a peak season in ocean that we usually see starting in September, running through October and into November. We're wondering if we're going to see that in air freight. A lot of the reports are showing that people are adequately have adequate resources on hand, and that they have adequate product for Black Friday. So we'll see after mid-December, towards the end of December, if we actually have an air freight peak. Everyone's watching, especially the air freight industry. Reports are showing that global shipping is actually up. We're seeing a lot of China to EU, China to the Middle East, China to Central America, and EU to the Middle East as well is actually up. However, reports are showing that shipments to the U.S. are actually down year over year. There are some anomalies at different ports. I saw an article this morning that said the Anchorage airport is actually up in freight, which is good, as a couple of the large express companies are there, as well as some new air freight capabilities there in Anchorage. So that's good news. We are seeing, however, overall impacts in the industry. We're seeing a lot of air freight projections going down. That's why I think it's going to be interesting to see if we actually have a peak season this year, and if that's going to happen. What's happening that I said death by a thousand cuts? Well, this song is actually off of Taylor Swift's 2019 Lover album. And although it doesn't speak to freight, they're the lyrics that really spoke to me when I heard them last night. I can't pretend it's okay when it's not. No, it's not. It's death by a thousand cuts. And I feel like we're all kind of feeling the death by a thousand cuts. So I've talked about in the past in some of my addresses to different groups about the feelings of grief that we've all gone through, the tariff stages of grief. We went from, I can't believe this is happening, to anger, denial, all the way through to acceptance. And now I feel like we're kind of joining the funeral by having a death by a thousand cuts. Announced just this week in the past few days, Switzerland and the U.S. have announced a trade deal. We don't know what the details are. We don't know if that's going to look like the other deals, Japan, EU, and the U.K., if there's going to be specific carve-outs for different industries like we saw in the U.K. deal, or if it's going to be just an overall reduction of reciprocals. We don't know what that deal looks like. There's also reports that tariffs will be cut on some Central American countries. I think this is great news. Specifically, CAFTA, Central American Free Trade Agreement, qualifying apparel from Guatemala and El Salvador are going to be exempt from the tariffs. Coffee from Guatemala, which I'm happy about because Cindy needs her coffee in the morning. I'm a huge coffee addict. Unfortunately, there should be a 12-step program for that, I think, and maybe in the future there will be. But I'm glad that coffee from Guatemala is going to be free from duty. Hopefully that will extend to all of the coffee producing countries because we can't produce coffee in the United States. Also, there was an announcement on Argentina and beef was going to be exempt from the tariffs. This particular item, the beef, has not set well with the American producing beef farmers. They are in ranchers. They are not happy that those tariffs are going to be cut because they do think it will impact the U.S. industry. So we'll see what that looks like. So why is this a death by 1,000 cuts? These are all great news, all good information going forward. Good for us, lower the prices, ease some of the shortages we've seen in isolated areas, and we can get our coffee at a reasonable price. Well, the piecemeal deals are slowly killing us. It's death by 1,000 cuts. It's slowly killing the compliance industry, import community, and especially the customs brokers. The process for implementing these changes is really massive. When you think about in the past, if there was one free trade agreement that was announced per year, that was a lot. And we were usually involved and well-informed in the implementation of this deal or the formation of the deal. Many times we were able to give actual input into what's going on and help shape those deals so that they can be implemented well. And as we know, that's not the environment that we're in today. These deals are done between the two governments, very little input from different associations or different industries. Even though the industries are advocating for some of these deals, they really haven't been involved in the conversations like we had in the past. So what does it really look like to implement a deal, a trade deal? And I'm going to speak on behalf of the customs brokers who are looking at all of these different trade deals and all of the trade remedies and now have to take action on our clients' behalf. So the process is really, we read the announcement. Just like everybody else, we are looking for details. We see the post on Truth Social, we see news reports, but until we get the language either on the Federal Register notice or through a CSMS, we don't have the guts of how we're going to actually implement this. So we're reading the information, we're watching. Once we get those details, we have to read it, digest it, and interpret it. And some of this language, because it's not necessarily being written by folks who are involved in trade on a day in and day out basis, some of the language is vague. And we've had to go back to the U.S. Trade Representative, go to CBP and say, please help me clarify what this means, because we don't know. It's too vague to actually apply to shipments. So once we've done the interpretation, usually the National Customs Brokers and Forwarders Association will come out with information. They'll make sure that we stay informed. AAEI, ICPA, some of the other trade associations are doing the same for their industry segments. But it's really important that we have a collective understanding of what this actually means. And there's lots of discussion among the members to actually understand how this needs to be implemented. Then we have to determine what's changed. Is there a change here that I need to implement? What is that change? How do I make sure and change all of the things that need changed as a result of this? So you have to determine and identify, are there systematic changes I need to make to incorporate this? Are there process changes that I have to now insert an extra step into the entry process? Do I have technology changes that I have to make? Is my system, does it need updated? Do I have to train my employees on this new process and procedure? Do I need to put out information in writing to them? Do I need to do a part of a new SOP? You have to identify who needs to know the information. So you're looking from an operations perspective, a tech and IT perspective, and a leadership perspective. And that's just internally to take this information in and then implement that new process in your own business. Then you have to look, okay, is this going to change credit terms for my clients? Do I have to rewrite a portion of an SOP that I have with my client? Is it going to impact my contract terms with those clients? Do I need to know how that's going to impact that client? To understand how it's going to impact the client and which clients are going to be impacted, we have to know what products are going to be affected. What are the tariff numbers that are then going to be affected? Then we have to know how to identify all of the clients that are going to be affected by that change. So that involves a lot of investigation, a lot of report running, a lot of inquiries to the client. Hey, we know this tariff number is affected. However, your product may or may not be. So you have an element of customer service and outreach that you have to do with your clients. Many times you have to bring your sales staff up to speed to say, oh, this has changed. Now we need you to go ask your 47 clients, is this impacting? Here's the questions that you need to specifically ask, because many salesmen are not customs brokers and they need help with the language and interpreting what that means with their client. They also have to know how else it's going to affect them. Many clients, when they see something like this, they pick up the phone, they call their customs broker, they call their attorney, they call their consultant and say, am I going to pay more duty? And if I am, how much is that? And so you have to do those calculations as well. To do that, you have to know the projected volume over the next month, 2 months, 6 months, whatever they're looking to determine. So all of this takes a lot of resources and time that is not tied to an actual shipment. A shipment hasn't even happened of these products yet. So that's the massive amount of work that customs brokers are doing right now. As well, on the importer side, my importer friends are actually doing much of the same work. They're going through their databases. They're combing through to try to determine if their tariff numbers are actually going to be affected by this new trade deal or by this new trade remedy. If it's a trade remedy, you're going to pay more duty. If it's a trade agreement, or you're going to pay less duty. Hopefully you're going to pay less duty. But are there then stipulations around how you're going to pay that duty? Are there limitations? Is there a cost offset somewhere? Are there going to be volume restrictions on that? Those are all things that collectively we're looking at together. And while last year, if a free trade agreement came out, we typically had months to do all of that work. Now we had 3 different trade deals announced in the past 2 days. We don't have the details yet. We don't know when they're going to be in effect, but we know that we're going to have to do that work on every single one of those announcements, dig through, look for that information, and take all of those steps. Now, most customs brokers have established a process for this because this has happened more frequently over the last year. So we have a process for this. Most importers the same. Although if you aren't affected by any of the trade deals and you haven't been affected necessarily by some of the trade remedies other than the reciprocals, you maybe don't have a process. So that's where you call folks like us, folks like Global Trading Center, and say, hey, I need some help understanding how this is going to impact me. It's been great for my business, but it's not been great for my clients, so I'm not happy about that. But here we are. We're in the position of being subject to death by 1,000 cuts. We'll see you next week.